Welcome back to the Faith and Work podcast. We have with us today a wonderful guest, Christina Woodruff. Christina, thank you so much for coming on the Faith and Work podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Yes. Okay. So this part of our season is faith in our community, and you have a really unique story that I'm so thankful you were willing to share because it's part of your story that's not the prettiest part and it's not the happiest part. And so I'm just going to kind of give it over to you. What was that chapter in your life like? And can you kind of walk us through where you were in life when you became a widow?
Yes. So I was 27 years old. I'm now 40. Um, so I was a baby. My husband was also 27 years old. We met when we were 18
Mm,
and got married at 22 and just had such a beautiful marriage and
yeah.
relationship. And so in July of 2013, I actually lost my brother.
Mm.
He was sick, and
Oh,
he
wow.
was one of my best friends, and that was,
Mm.
like, one of the very first, like well, that was the first grief I had ever felt through
Yeah.
loss,
Wow.
and David, my husband, was my biggest support
Mm.
and just guided me through that season. And then literally almost exactly 3 months later, I got a phone call that he was in a motorcycle accident.
Wow.
Yes. And,
3 months.
that it didn't feel real. With my
Yeah.
brother, it was expected, unexpected because he had
Mm-hmm.
been sick.
Yeah.
But with the David, I mean, he was perfect health and just, we had our
Yeah.
future planned. We were getting ready to buy a house together.
Wow.
And it was such a shock to receive the
Yeah.
phone call.
Mm.
And I drove to the hospital, had a friend drive me to the hospital, and they told me
Wow.
that he was killed instantly.
My goodness.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So I can't even imagine. You said you were 22 when you got married,
Yes.
and they were 25 when the accident happened.
I was 27.
27 when the accident
27,
happened.
yes.
Wow. So just that shock of coming from everything's fine, there's no problem, and then was in an accident and instantly taken from you.
Mhm.
As a young widow, man, how did you even start processing your grief?
You know, I don't know. It It's such a crazy thing
Yeah.
because I always had guilt because I literally was
Mm.
reading a book on how to survive the death of a sibling,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
I
wow.
pretty much, like, threw that book to the side and then
Mm.
started reading widow books,
Yeah.
and there was not much out there for a young
Mm.
widow. There are a
Right.
lot of older widows
Mhm.
or, widows who had children and
Yes.
family, and my
Mm.
family does not live around here at all,
Okay.
and so, um, my mom lived in Texas at the time, and my dad was a
Mm.
truck driver, so he was kind of
Okay.
everywhere, and
Yeah.
then my sister lived in Maryland,
Wow.
and so I just had to kind of figure it out, and one
Mm.
thing is David was a police officer,
Mhm.
and that Blue family,
Yeah.
the KPD family,
Yeah.
was my support system and really
Mm.
helped me process, go through the funeral planning. Since he was an
Mm.
officer, we had already had a funeral planned in case something ever happened on the job,
Yeah.
and I hated doing that with him, but
Oh,
I was
yeah.
so relieved,
Oh,
like, when
man.
I was able to use it.
Yeah.
And so really it was just I mean, every day I was in survival mode.
Mhm.
I I didn't know how to function, and it didn't feel real. I
Yeah.
felt like if I just was like, "Okay, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna do everything perfectly, then he's gonna magically come back, and this is just a test that God has given me." And then every day that went by, obviously, he didn't
Yeah.
come back.
Right.
And so it was a
Mm.
crazy just realization.
Yeah.
And there was so much to it within even that first year. He died in October of 2013. And then I had to go back to work like a month later because
Yeah.
I was 27 and
Yeah.
I needed money, and bills
Right.
bills don't
Yeah.
care if you're
Right. No,
grieving.
bills don't wait on your grief. Yeah.
No. And then 3 months after he passed away, we rented a house from his parents,
Mm-hmm.
and they were suffering with their own grief, and they needed someone to blame, and they
Mm,
blamed me, and they kicked me out of our house 3 months after he
man.
died.
So 3 months, that had to be close to Christmas.
Yes, it was right after Christmas.
Oh my goodness, Christina.
Yes.
Wow.
So I lost my brother, my husband, and my home all within a 6-month period,
Wow.
and I was literally at rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man alive. So the timing of all of that, just, you said survival mode. I can't even imagine what normal would look like. But for you, what did a normal survival mode day look like for you? What if someone sees somebody else and they think, oh, they lost their husband a couple months ago, but look at them, they're doing so great right now. I think we can cover up grief so easily sometimes. What did that
Absolutely.
look like for you?
So I have always been amazing at putting on a good face. And I'm a hairstylist. And so my job is making other people feel good, making them happy. And so since I had to go back to work, I just had to act like my life was normal. And some people knew, some people
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And so on the outside looking in, if someone didn't know my situation, they were like, oh, that young girl's, she's
Yeah.
working, she's got it all together. And
Yeah.
inside, I was completely dead. I felt like I
Mm.
had no feelings at all. I used to tell my mom, like, the world could blow up in front of me and I wouldn't even be phased
Yeah.
because I already felt like that had happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, really, I mean, honestly, a grieving widow or widower from the outside, we kind of look like normal, everyday people
Yeah.
until you actually get deep into conversation or the grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned going back to work. What did finding community look like for you? And what are some ways that helped you? And what are some ways that actually made your grief harder to heal? Maybe
hmm
because of community.
So, having the community just show up and be there and not try to fix me,
Yeah.
that was the number one thing because it couldn't be fixed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to fix it.
Hmm.
I'm guilty of it
Yeah.
myself. Like if I
Yeah.
feel
For
someone
sure.
sad, I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I used to say to people that I will never say again in this is God has a plan.
Mm.
So even though God does have a plan, and
Yeah.
now 13 years later, looking back, I can see God's plan.
Yeah.
When I was in it, that was the
Mm.
last thing that I
Yeah.
wanted to hear
That's not
because
helpful. Yeah.
no, when people would say that, I would say, well, I don't like his plan.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Maybe
his
he
plan's
does.
kind of
This is,
awful.
yeah. I didn't approve this chapter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
Or they
that.
would say, well, David's in a better place. And I was like, well, good for him. I'm not. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah.
so
And it's
hard.
words that, especially within the church community, but even just in the community in general,
Yeah.
that's what I feel like we're programmed to
Mm-hmm.
say because
Yeah.
it should make you feel better.
Yeah.
And it absolutely does not.
Mm-mm.
And I never lost my faith, but
Yeah.
I was definitely angry at God
Yeah.
because I felt like he had just allowed things to be taken away from me. And I knew from the beginning that there had to be more to my story.
Yeah.
But I also had no idea what that would be, and I was not
Mm.
happy because
Yeah.
his plan was not my plan.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's these layers of grief with the loss of your brother and your husband. And so suddenly, you mentioned that just that sudden loss with your husband. And then the family dynamic changing, and you're
Mhm.
losing the home that where you had lived.
Right.
Um, that's so hard, that familiar, and being in survival mode. What was kind of that timeline? How long would you say that survival mode lasted? And when did the real healing begin? Like, was it months? Was it years? Like, what did real healing look like for you?
So something that I learned along the journey was healing is not linear at all. There really isn't like during this time the healing began. I feel like there were little glimmers, there were little God winks of
Yeah.
healing. And, even when I got kicked out of my house, one of my amazing clients who was this older lady,
Mm.
she had taken me in
Oh,
and me and my
wow.
cat moved in with her.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
her showing God's love and God's grace,
Yep.
that was part of my healing. But it
Yeah.
was like, like it was just building
Yes. It was like
blocks
those
on
little
blocks.
1%, 1%. Yeah.
Right. And when I met my husband now, Jonathan, that was the first time that I felt hope or felt anything
Yeah.
since David had died. And we dated for almost 4 years before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
But within that time period, it was so up and down because I would
Yeah.
feel on top of the world and then I would feel so much guilt and then so
Yeah.
on top of the world. And so honestly, I feel like it was 8 years after David died that I
Yeah.
really dug into therapy and working through my grief because I feel like since I was so young and I had to keep pushing forward and go back to work, that I
Yeah.
didn't allow myself the true time to grieve because
Yeah.
the world didn't let me have that time.
Right. No.
And so I feel like it was David's 10-year anniversary that he was gone. That was the first anniversary that I didn't cry and that I actually could just like sit in the memories and just be
Yeah.
thankful and not the
Yeah.
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for so many people going through grief, from my own journey and people that I've talked to that have walked through grief, sometimes we avoid going back because we think, number one, it takes too much time. Like, no one has time for that. I don't have time to deal with it. Or it's too hurtful. Like, bringing up all of that is just so
Mhm.
hard. And you feel like, I just got to a place where I'm not crying on the anniversary. Why would I go back to therapy and dig up everything else? And so for someone listening and they're thinking, man, I feel like maybe I have something I should go back and get that grief help for, but they're
Yes.
hesitant to do it. What would you say to someone who's not sure if it's worth it?
It never hurts to try. It's one of those things for me. I had gotten to a point to where I thought, "Oh, I'm healed.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm happily remarried. Life is good. My business
Yeah.
is doing well." But inside, I still would wake up with nightmares. I
Mm,
still would have panic attacks. If I saw a motorcycle, like,
mm,
zooming down the road next to me, my heart would just race, and
yeah.
I would just feel just almost like this just something sitting on my chest,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Mm,
I knew that there was more. Like, I knew that I
yeah.
wasn't supposed to feel this the rest of my
Yeah.
life. And so going to therapy and talking to someone that is a non-biased opinion, that's not
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and that I could get it all. A lot of the things I needed to work through were things that I didn't even I
Mm-hmm.
thought I had worked through.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
one of the main things was even forgiveness with
Mm-hmm.
being kicked out of the house and even forgiving David for
Yeah.
choosing a motorcycle over me because he knew how I felt about
Mm-hmm.
having that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buried
Yeah.
things that once I really dug into it, I
Mm.
had to look at it in a different light.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. I love that encouragement because I feel like we can tell ourselves that it's not worth the effort. And so I love that you said it never hurts to try,
Mhm.
because I think there's so many times we can look at something and we can think, that's too much work. It's not worth it.
Mhm.
And I love your story because after so much time, you did put a lot of effort in, um,
Mhm.
with that healing, with those layers of grief that had kind of been buried. So you mentioned support from community. What are some practical ways that people could show the love of Christ without um, slapping a Bible down on the table and saying,
Yeah.
this came from God? Like, what are some practical ways people can show love to people who have gone through being a young widow or widower?
Yeah. I think showing up even after a month later.
Yeah.
At first you're so bombarded and it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful and you
Yeah.
feel so much love,
Yeah.
but you're surrounded by people and feel so alone at the same time because your body
Yeah.
doesn't know what is going
Mm-hmm.
on. So I feel like for me, my friends that 3 months later, 5 months
Mm-hmm.
later, still would
Yeah.
text me and not just ask how I was doing, because I think everyone kind of knew, like, she's really not great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they would include me in their everyday life
Yeah.
and not act like I had, you know, I don't know, like a disease or something. Like
Yeah.
being a widow is not a disease, but people were scared to talk to me.
Yeah.
And because they were afraid to bring something up or,
Mm.
you know, and so I think saying the person's name, I
Yes.
loved and still love talking about David. Like when
Mm.
I talk about him and think about him, I just light up. And even
Mm.
then, that was something that brought me joy and
Yeah.
comfort.
Yeah.
And then just telling the people, like, your situation sucks right now. Like, don't
Right.
try to make it better. Just say, this
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Because so many people are like, stay strong, do this, do that. But I think if you say, it's okay to feel this, like,
Yeah.
let yourself feel this, because that's how
Yes.
God made us to
Yeah.
feel all these different emotions and stages of
Yeah.
grief.
Oh, yeah. That's so good. That's so true. And you mentioned just a good point of being included with people. Because when you are a widow or widower, I imagine it's hard to know what group you fit into, because you're
Yeah.
not like a young single and
Hmm.
you're not a married couple anymore.
Right.
So in a church dynamic, how did that play out for you?
Oh, well, it wasn't great, honestly. So while David was here, we had actually gone through fertility stuff.
Mm.
And we were in a small Sunday school group, and I was the only one that couldn't have a baby. So it got to the point to where our newlyweds group became people to young children. And a couple weeks before David had passed, the Sunday school teacher actually came up to us and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to be a part of this new newlyweds group?" And I was like, "Oh, are you wanting us to help host it,
Yeah,
or help with it?" And they're like, "Well, no, we just thought you'd be more comfortable." And I was like,
because
"Oh,"
you guys didn't have
because we
children?
didn't have kids. And
Oh
those
my
were like,
goodness.
right. And
Mm.
so at that point, I felt excluded. And
Yeah.
I was like, "You know what? I think we'll just not go to Sunday school right now." And
Right.
so we continued going to church. We just didn't go to Sunday school.
Yeah.
But then when he passed, those some people still came to the house to visit and they came to his funeral, but when
Yeah.
I went back to church, not one person spoke to me out
Oh
of that
man.
group.
Wow.
And that was so hurtful because in my mind I thought, "Oh, so not only do I not and cannot have children, I
Mm.
don't have a husband now." So now I
Wow.
I just felt very isolated,
Yeah.
and I think part of it was their own, just not knowing what to say or afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But all I needed was a hug or like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're so happy that you're here. Come sit
Yeah.
with us."
Yeah.
And I sat by myself and this little old lady came over after church. I had never met her. And
Oh,
I don't even know if she knew my situation. She just knew I was crying through the whole
yeah.
service. And she gave me like a $20 bill and was like,
Oh
"Honey, I just feel like you need this and just know you're loved."
my goodness.
Yeah, and it
That's
wasn't
so
even from
sweet.
my little
Yeah.
community that I had had.
Oh,
And so
man.
I think just not excluding
Yes.
in any way,
Yeah.
but especially with being a young widow, all my friends were planning weddings or families, and I felt like God picked me up because out of all of my friends, I was the first one to get married. I got married at 22,
Yeah.
and I always say I felt like God picked me up and was like, "Boop, we're starting you over again."
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
so I didn't have a place that I fit, and so
Mhm.
personally, I feel like I was looking for things to fulfill a void and things that were not healthy mentally or
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have a good Christian community,
Yeah.
um, having my back with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that like just breaks my heart and makes me want to go slap some people. But I
Right?
know that in this series that we're doing with faith in our community, that's a consistent theme of either at work or at church or just in family, friend, community groups. When we
Mhm.
don't know what to say, we just avoid it altogether. We
Mhm.
don't even try because we're afraid of saying the wrong thing or we think it's going to be uncomfortable. So we don't try. And I think that does way more harm than what we think it will.
Mhm.
And it's really sad. It's sad when we do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so hard. We talked a little bit about the healing, but you've come a long way since then,
Yes.
since the days of being left out of your small group, which is like the worst thing ever. Dave, my husband's name is David. And we have
Uh-huh.
a small group. And so that just makes me think like, oh man, if that happened to anybody in our small group, like I can't even imagine not reaching out or not saying something to them. And so that just makes me even want to be that much more intentional with those couples. But
Yeah.
um anyway, what did healing, you talked about healing that started like that 10 years after. What did that day-to-day life look like? And then kind of walk us through where you are now and kind of what that process looked like.
So at first, it was literally getting out of bed and just taking it one breath at a time
Yeah.
because I feel like I didn't have the strength. And it takes
Yeah.
I always think of Philippians 4:13, and God is our strength. And that is the only
Yeah.
way that I got through
Right.
it. And even
Yeah.
though I was very angry at God, I never stopped believing.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I know you have a
Mm.
purpose for my life. And I
Yeah.
know that David did not die in vain.
Mhm.
So just trying to continue to make David proud
Mhm.
and show my faith when and where that I could,
Yeah.
and just taking each day at a time. Sometimes I feel like surviving is the bravest thing you can do when you're
Mm.
going through that. Because there was a time when I finally bought my house after I had kicked out. Like,
Mhm.
I got here and I had nothing. I write about this in my book, but I had a camping chair in my living room and a mattress in my spare bedroom.
Mm.
And I came home from work and was standing eating a TV dinner.
Mm.
And I was like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in having this when I have no one to
Yeah.
share it with?
Mm.
And there was one night I was laying on the mattress and I just remember like screaming, just trying
Mm.
to relieve pain
Yeah.
because there's
Wow.
such a sadness inside of you that it
Yeah.
comes like from within your belly. Like you
Mhm.
cannot
Yeah.
relieve it. And I was scared to death. I had never
Mhm.
lived on my own. I
Yeah.
went straight from being from college at home
Mhm.
with my mom to being married. And so I was in this house all alone with my dog and
Mhm.
my cat. And I had one of David's guns. And
Mm.
I just was like, I think this is it for me. Like, I
Mm.
cannot keep, like, this is not living.
Yeah.
And then I just, honestly, the thing that saved me was thinking of my parents. And they
Mm.
had just buried my brother.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I thought, I cannot have my parents bury two children
Yeah.
within the same year or
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing is, like, my brother's death saved my life.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I made up my mind that night that I couldn't keep living in between life and death. I
Yeah.
couldn't keep just every day wishing I was gonna die. It was like, no, I'm either like gonna die or I have to live.
Yeah.
And so it's just taking these little micro movements of moving forward, of
Yeah.
allowing myself to actually feel joy.
Mhm.
And one of
Yeah.
my friends invited me to her birthday party, and I
Mm.
went, and that's actually where I met Jonathan.
Oh, wow.
And it's like just these little, again, little
Yeah.
glimmers, little God
Mhm.
winks that I just kept holding on to. And I'm just like, okay, well, this happened, so there's hope. And
Yeah.
then this happened, so there's hope. And then eventually I feel like my heart just kind of opened and was like, you have so much to give. Like, this is not the end of your story. And I didn't know what that meant or where I was going with
Yeah.
it, or that I would be 40
Mm.
years old and writing a book and
Yeah. Right.
yeah, but I knew that that was not the end. So it was
Yeah.
just little micro movements of hope.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we sometimes we underestimate the power of those micro movements. Like
Yes.
like in the moment they feel like so small.
Mhm.
And later you look back on it and you're right. Sometimes those little micro things is just what gives you like a glimmer of hope. It's not even like a whole like a whole chapter of hope. It's just like this little
Right.
tiny sliver, and there's hope. And it just gives you something to get out of bed in the morning or something to keep going or something to not do something that you contemplated, but it just gives you
Mhm.
something to look forward to. Oh,
Mhm.
Christina, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Man, your story is just so powerful and encouraging. But I think about two different people listening to this episode. One is the person who has been widowed,
Mhm.
um, and they're here and they feel stuck and they feel
Yeah.
alone and they feel like I'm in a group of people and everyone else has their person but me. And I don't know where to find my person or my people or my tribe. My tribe has changed. And sometimes even going through chapters like that, your friend group shifts and changes and
Mhm.
it's hard. And then there's the other group of people listening who know somebody that has been widowed and they don't
Mhm.
know what to do. Like, do we invite them to family dinners or will that make it worse? Do
Mhm.
we say something or does it make it worse? And so if you could just kind of speak to both of those groups, like what encouragement would you give to both sides listening today?
Right. So for the widow or widower, even though it feels like the end of your story, it is not the end. And, you may have lost something beautiful, but life can be beautiful again. And sometimes it just takes your story, just like God is using my story to be able to encourage someone else. And I feel like it's this domino effect. I've
Yeah.
had so many clients even sit in my chair that have sat down and they're like, oh my gosh, my husband just died or my wife just
Yeah.
died. And I know that God put them in my life and in my chair
Yeah.
for me to encourage them. And so just know that even if you are in the darkest place, that just like anything, like there are brighter days ahead. And there's this saying, and it's it's like when you think of the good and bad, just know that nothing's forever. When you're in the bad, know that it's not going to last forever. And then when you're in the good, cherish that
Yeah.
and hold on to it for everything because it's not forever. But God allows all these little things to happen in your life, and if you open up your heart, healing can happen, and don't expect your healing journey to be like anyone else's,
Yeah.
and no matter what, people are gonna have an opinion. You're either moving too slow or you're moving too fast.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's all in God's timeline. It's not in their timeline, it's not in your
That's right.
timeline. I met Jonathan 6 months after David died. We didn't
Mm.
start dating right away, but I also
Yeah.
knew there was something special,
Mm-hmm.
and I got so much, heat for, like,
Mm.
starting to see someone, and
Yeah.
I thought, "You're not living my life, like, you
That's
don't
right.
know what this is," but then I have friends who have been widowed for 7 years and
Mm.
haven't been on a single date,
Yeah.
and that's okay,
Right.
So I think it's
Yeah.
just having grace with yourself
Yeah.
and just getting through each day and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that it's not the end.
Yeah.
But for the people who know the widow and widowers, invite them to the family dinner, but
Mm,
also be okay if they say no.
mm.
I think it's
Yeah.
more of knowing we're wanted and
Yeah.
invited and not excluded, but at least we have the option.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I had friends that were afraid to invite me to anything good in their life because they thought it would make me feel bad. And I thought, well, just because my life is terrible doesn't mean I want yours to be.
Right. I don't want anybody else to be in this ditch with me every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I think keep showing up
Yeah.
as you even did before. Because I think sometimes when you show up and you're just like acting weird about it,
Yeah.
then that makes the person feel uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
or if you're feeling weird, I had one of my friends, she was great. She was a client at the time and we weren't as close as we are now, but she wrote me a letter and she said, "I'm sorry I have not called you. I don't have the words to say, but I am praying for you
Yeah.
and like I will show up and I am here if you need me." And she
Yeah.
was like, "But honestly, I feel very awkward right now." And just her truth, like it made
Yeah.
me laugh because I'm like, well, thank God someone's honest about it. You know?
Right. Right. Yes. I would rather have awkward honesty any day than just not
Yeah.
talking at all or avoiding or
Yes.
pulling back. And you're like, what did I do? Or what happened? So the awkward honesty I would take any day of the week.
Yes,
Yeah.
same. And I am just an open book, and I always have been.
Yeah.
And I love when other people are that
Mm-hmm.
way. And I'm like, you cannot hurt my feelings, like, unless you're just being mean. But if you're just
Right.
being
Yeah.
honest,
Yes.
then yeah, just like tell me how you're feeling. And most of the time I can say, yeah, I get that. I don't know what to say either.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think again, like I said earlier, say the person's name. Talk about stories. Like if
Yeah.
you were friends with their spouse that passed, one of my favorite things was I met up with a bunch of police officers and their wives, and the officers were just talking about David when he was at work. And they were some of the funniest stories that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And he, for instance, he loved junk food. And anyone who knows me, I am a nutrition coach. I wasn't then, but I've always been very like fruits, vegetables.
Yes.
But he was very picky. So I would go like get him fresh fruit, cut it up every day, like pack it with him. And I found out that he was trading his fruit for candy bars. And so
That is hilarious.
right? And so the officer was like, "He always had the best fruit." I was like, "Oh, thank you. Did he tell you that?" And he's like, "No, he would like give it to me and I would give him his stickers."
Well, that's
And I was
hilarious.
just laughing so hard. And like that
Yeah.
brought me so much joy
Yes.
because it was a funny memory that I didn't even know. So
Yeah.
like say their name. Like we're not
Mm.
even with moving forward. As a
Yeah.
widow, you're never moving on. There's not a
Yes.
day that I don't think about David.
Yeah.
There's just not.
Yeah.
But I carry him with me, and now instead of, like, wanting to cry when I think about him, I wanna smile,
Mm.
and when people say his name, it keeps his memory alive, and
Yeah.
that's all we want. We want
Yeah.
their memory to stay alive
Yeah.
and honor them in that way.
I love that. I was listening to Levi Lesko talk about their little girl when she died. And
Mm,
he said he was looking at all the pictures on his phone of his little
mhm.
girl. And he says sometimes people will share a random memory and it's a picture they have on their phone or something. And he said that means so much to have like their memory and to have a different picture that I never saw before. And so I
Yeah,
never forgot that of just someone sharing something. It doesn't rip open a wound. It allows their memory to stay alive. And it's a
yes,
beautiful thing when we can celebrate who God made them to be and who they were and their
yes.
sense of humor and the funny things. Like it's a
Uh-huh.
wonderful thing to celebrate that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Christina, thank you for just so openly sharing your story. And your story is a beautiful one and it's one of redemption. You mentioned your book. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that. But I just appreciate your openness to share a part of
Yeah.
your story that is such a hard part of your story. So thank you for going there with us. But tell us about the book that you're writing.
Okay, so right now, I am still currently writing it. I am in the last part of it,
Okay, that's so
and I
exciting.
have it split in 3 parts. And the very first part is about David, and the first chapter is called The End of My Chapter 1, and it's the day that he died. And it is just, like, from morning to night, like, just
Yeah,
my whole going through that.
yeah,
And then after that, I go back into our love story and just how we became best friends,
yeah,
and just I make you fall in love with him, make you fall in love with us. Also introduced his family a little bit.
yeah.
There was stuff there from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and but then part 1 ends with his funeral. And
Mm,
then part 2 is called Surviving Him, and it is the
mm.
hard part. That was the hardest part to write.
I can't imagine.
It was very, um, emotional,
Yeah.
and, it's so many people say, "Oh, I bet this has been so healing to write," and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, I'm not writing it to heal, I'm writing it because I am healed."
Yeah.
And I was like, "But it definitely can bring you back, and if anything, it just makes me feel so thankful for where
Mm.
I am now." Because
Yes.
when go back to those days,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching a movie of
Yeah.
someone else's life, and I'm like, "No, that was me."
Wow. Yeah.
And so then part 3 is about my husband now and my
Mm-hmm.
healing journey. So
Mm.
he was a huge part of my
Yeah.
healing journey, but honestly, and I wanna take this back to speaking to the widows and
Yeah.
widowers, you cannot find happiness within anyone else. So
Yeah.
I feel like what truly helped
Mm.
me heal and move
Mm-hmm.
forward is learning how to be okay with me and be
Mm-hmm.
okay with just me.
Yeah.
And then I could truly allow another love to come into my life.
Yeah.
Because at first I was putting so much on Jonathan and expecting him to fill a void that was not his
Yeah.
to fill.
That's right.
Yeah. And so
Mm.
I will end the book around the 10-year anniversary of David
Mm.
and of, like, the first anniversary that I didn't cry, and how I truly felt
Yeah.
like everything I had accomplished from that point was just a place of honoring him
Mm.
and keeping his memory alive. And
Mm.
it's just I'm writing the book I wish I had
Well,
because
that's
I
so
did
good.
not have
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I
Mm.
wouldn't wish my pain on anyone, but I
Yeah.
truly wish my perspective on everyone.
Yeah. Oh, Christina, thank you so much for sharing that. And for anyone listening who would like to connect with Christina after the show, we will have all of her social links in the show notes. You can definitely check her out. And then when she has her book ready, we will definitely make sure to put that on the Faith and Work Instagram page so you guys can find that pretty easily. But Christina, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of close us out on a word of prayer over those who are kind of walking this journey right now. And you gave
Okay.
so many amazing, encouraging things today. It makes me want to go back and listen to it again because it was
Yep.
just so good. So thank you for what you shared. It was just so, so well said, so beautifully said. But if you wouldn't mind, just kind of close us out in a word of prayer.
Absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you and praise you for everything you've done in my life and for those around me. And God, I just want to pray right now for anyone who is walking through the same journey that I did, or even those who are walking through the journey with someone that they love. Just give them the hope and just be the strength that you were for me through those dark times. And just know that no matter what they are going through or the feelings they are feeling, that there is something beautiful at the end. This is not the end of their story, that they can just use this to grow for themselves and for others. Lord, I just want you to just hold their hearts in your hand and just let them know that when they feel alone, that they are not alone and that you have them and you are with them. And when they feel like they can't walk, to let them know that you are carrying them. And I just thank you and praise you for everything that you've done in my life. And I pray that you will just help encourage these people going through this journey. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.